and surpass America, China recognizes it needs to make leaps in cutting-edge technologies. But the sad fact is that instead of engaging in the hard slog of innovation, China often steals American intellectual property and then uses it to compete against the very American companies it victimized, in effect, cheating twice over.
Intellectual property rights provide a legal framework that rewards creators, inventors, and innovators. Intellectual property encourages individuals and organizations to invest time, resources, and expertise in developing new technologies, inventions, artistic works, and other forms of intellectual endeavor by granting exclusive rights and control over their creations. Intellectual property rights provide a legal framework in which creators, inventors, and innovators are rewarded by granting exclusive rights and control over their creations. Given the importance of intellectual property, some countries attempt to steal it by spying on or bribing individuals. You will be aware that China has long engaged in these kinds of operations if you keep up with Chinese news. But I have compiled 3 recent interesting stories. So, if you watch this video, you will understand how far China has gone to steal intellectual property to further its interests. But first, you must comprehend the complexities of intellectual property rights. Patents give inventors exclusive rights to their inventions, such as new processes, machines, matter compositions, or improvements to existing ones. Patents provide protection for a set period of time, typically 20 years, during which the inventor retains control over the use and commercialization of their invention. Copyrights, original works of authorship, such as literary, artistic, musical, and dramatic works, as well as software, films, and architectural designs, are protected by copyright. Copyright grants the creator the exclusive right to reproduce, distribute, display, perform, and modify their work for a set period of time, typically the author's life plus 70 years. Trademarks are distinguishing signs, symbols, logos, or phrases used to differentiate one entity's goods or services. They assist consumers in identifying and associating products or services with a particular brand or company. The registration of a trademark grants the owner the exclusive right to use the mark in connection with the specified goods or services. Trade secrets are confidential and valuable information that provides a competitive advantage to a business. It can include formulas, manufacturing processes, customer lists, marketing strategies, or any other non-public information. Trade secrets, unlike patents or copyrights, are protected as long as they remain secret and efforts are made to maintain their confidentiality. Industrial designs, the aesthetic or visual aspects of a product or object, such as its shape, configuration, pattern, or ornamentation, are protected by industrial designs. They seek to protect an item's distinct appearance, often in relation to its functionality. Now that we have learned how intellectual property rights works, we can talk about Chinese incursions. The first thing that we are going to talk about is the theft of the entire semiconductor plant. And I am not exaggerating when I say China has stolen the entire semiconductor plant. According to Korean prosecutors, a former Samsung Electronics executive stole blueprints and designs in order to replicate an entire semiconductor plant in China, outlining a stunningly ambitious attempt to establish world-class chipmaking capabilities in the world's second-largest economy. Prosecutors said in a statement that they arrested a 65-year-old man accused of stealing trade secrets from 2018 to 2019 in order to replicate a chip plant in the northern city of Shee-ahn. Backed by capital from an unidentified Taiwanese company. They didn't name the company from which the accused stole, only that it was the world's largest memory chipmaker. The Suwon District Prosecutor's Office in South Korea said, "It's so serious that it's difficult to compare it in terms of the scale of the crime and the degree of damage with previous individual semiconductor technology leakage cases." The case comes as tensions between Beijing and Washington rise, with the Biden administration passing legislation and lobbying allies to keep advanced semiconductor capabilities out of the hands of Chinese firms. The government of Xi Jinping has claimed that the US is unfairly attempting to stifle China's economic development. The case may also incite tensions between Korea and Taiwan, two of the most important chip-making centers and US allies supportive of Washington's efforts to contain China's chip ambitions. Taiwan and Seoul are extremely sensitive to Chinese attempts to poach chip talent and designs from an industry critical to the prosperity of both economies. It is very uncommon for companies to attempt to replicate entire chip-making facilities. Over the years, the majority of intellectual property cases have focused on attempts to hire away key engineers, appropriate critical designs, or reverse engineer software and components. Prosecutors said a former executive attempted to build a replica of a Samsung chip plant 1.5 kilometers away from its existing facility in Shee-ahn using stolen technologies and data. However, the Taiwanese company failed to deliver on its promise to invest more than $6 billion in the new facility. According to the various news agencies, the executive approached a group of Chinese investors and began producing trial products from a chip plant in Chengdu based on Samsung technology. The individual in the latest case worked for Samsung for 18 years before moving on to another, unnamed company for about a decade. According to prosecutors, this individual founded several chip manufacturing companies in China and Singapore, using capital from both Chinese and Taiwanese investors. In the process, the ex-Samsung official hired more than 200 Korean chip experts and stole valuable data, worth at least $233 million from Samsung, according to the indictment. Prosecutors also indicted 6 other individuals, who they alleged were the executive's accomplices. The next story is published on May 4, 2022, when intellectual property worth trillions got stolen. A years-long malicious cyber operation led by the notorious Chinese state actor APT-41 has stolen estimated trillions of dollars in intellectual property from approximately 30 multinational corporations in the manufacturing, energy and pharmaceutical sectors. According to a new report from the Boston-based cybersecurity firm Shee-ahn, malicious campaign dubbed Operation Cuckoo Bees has exfiltrated hundreds of gigabytes of intellectual property, sensitive data, including blueprints, diagrams, formulas and manufacturing-related proprietary data, from multiple intrusions spanning technology and manufacturing companies in North America, Europe and Asia. Shee-ahn CEO Leo Div said, "We're talking about blueprint diagrams of fighter jets, helicopters, and missiles. In pharmaceuticals, we saw them stealing IP of drugs around diabetes, obesity, depression. The campaign has not yet been stopped." According to Leo Div, criminals were focused on obtaining blueprints for cutting-edge technologies, the majority of which were not yet patented. The APT-41 also exfiltrated data from the energy industry, including designs of solar panels and edge vacuum system technology. This is not technology that you see at home. It's what you need for large-scale manufacturing plants. According to researchers, the cyber espionage campaign, which had been operating undetected since early 2019, collected information that could be used for future cyber attacks or potential extortion campaigns, including details about companies' business units, network architecture, user accounts and credentials, employee emails and customer data. Shee-ahn first became aware of the operation in April 2021, when a company raised the possibility of an intrusion during a business pitch meeting with the cybersecurity firm. Analysts reverse-engineered the attack to discover every step malicious actors took inside the environment, revealing that APT-41 maintained full access to everything in the network in order for them to pick and choose the right information that they needed to collect. With complete access, criminals were able to exfiltrate the time-consuming information required to duplicate complex engineering, including rocket-propelled weapons. To rebuild a missile, for example, hundreds of pieces of information must be stolen in a specific way in order to recreate and rebuild that technology. APT-41, also known as barium and blackfly, is one of the most prolific and successful Chinese state-sponsored threat groups, with a history of launching CCP-backed espionage activity and financially motivated attacks on US and other international targets that are routinely aligned with China's 5-year economic development plan. Third and last story is about semiconductor equipment designs. Applied Materials is suing a Chinese-owned competitor for what it claims was a 14-month effort to steal some of its most valuable secrets, which included an orchestrated employee poaching and covert transfers of semiconductor equipment designs. Matson, California-based company acquired by Beijing-backed Beijing E-Town Dragon Semiconductor Industry Investment Center in 2016, was accused by the largest U.S. supplier of chipmaking equipment of hiring away 17 of its most senior engineers in less than a year. According to the court filings, they included a senior department manager and researchers who had worked together for years and had access to sensitive information, such as chipmaking processes and the company's technology roadmap. It sued Matson and the most recent employee to leave in 2022, claiming that they finally provided concrete evidence of espionage. The U.S. company said in a March 2022 filing that many of these documents are highly sensitive, technical, and contain applied trade secrets and know-how which would give Matson years of competitive advantage in its technology trajectory and development. The city government supports and operates the Beijing E-Town Dragon Semiconductor Industry Investment Center. The lawsuit, which has not previously been reported, is proceeding as concerns grow about the lengths to which China is willing to go in order to get round US sanctions and build a world-class chip industry. ASML Holding accused a former China-based employee of stealing confidential technological information in 2023, the second such allegation in a year. Applied Materials complaint detailed in unusual detail what it claimed were suspiciously similar circumstances surrounding the departure of key employees. According to the report, the majority of the departing employees wiped their company-issued phones and refused to disclose their new employer, or in some cases lied about their new jobs. Applied Materials described how he first tried unsuccessfully to download information onto a USB drive a day, after accepting Matson's job offer in February 2022 and then emailed volumes of information to himself. The information transferred allegedly included 3D rendering, detailed dimensions, and material compositions for a new type of chamber or reactor used in deposition, an essential step repeated several times in the chip-making process in which thin films of chemicals are deposited on a wafer to create layers of insulating and conducting materials. As a leader in the deposition field, Applied Materials said the new chamber is the first of its kind and will enable the production of advanced high-performance chips. Lai also was accused of taking the company's roadmap for his dielectric deposition products group for 2022 and beyond. Applied Materials and ASML make some of the world's most sophisticated equipment for fabricating chips, a vital component for industries from defense to EVs and computing. China, which imports more semiconductors than oil annually, has been trying to remove itself off a reliance on the US as tensions rise. Washington, for its part, has enlisted allies from Japan to the Netherlands to contain China's efforts on that front. US officials have long accused China of engaging in corporate espionage to obtain trade secrets from Western tech firms, allegations that Beijing has repeatedly denied and called slander of legitimate scientific achievement. But back in 2015 and 2016, when few were paying much attention to Chinese firms' overseas acquisitions, E-Town announced and completed its purchase of Matson. After ownership restructuring, Matson is now a wholly owned subsidiary of E-Town's self-titled affiliate. Now you have watched this whole fiasco of thugs of China in this video, but have you noticed that the majority of its stealing is to acquire semiconductor technology? It's because China's top leadership has grown increasingly frustrated with the country's years-long failure to develop semiconductors capable of replacing US circuitry. An embarrassment anti-graft probes into top industry officials and the $9 billion rescue of Tsinghua Unigroup. According to people familiar with top government officials' thinking, senior officials are frustrated that tens of billions of dollars poured into the industry over the last decade haven't resulted in the kinds of breakthroughs seen in previous national-level scientific attempts. Washington has been able to strong-arm Beijing and successfully contain its technological ambitions. The investigations have sent shockwaves through the semiconductor industry, which has long relied on top-tier support. Xi Jinping's government has set aside more than $100 billion to develop a domestic semiconductor industry, allowing China to reduce its reliance on the West. The National Integrated Circuit Industry Investment Fund, also known as Big Fund within the industry, has become Beijing's primary vehicle for distributing capital to the country's chipmakers. The country's top anti-corruption agency announced investigations into 3 more executives who assisted in the management of the Big Fund's assets, adding that it was sending a team to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. The same regulator was already looking into the minister, Xiao Yaqing, making him the most senior sitting cabinet member to face a disciplinary investigation in nearly 4 years. Conclusion: in the end, this is how China operates. They steal what they can't innovate. These are the stories that have been reported in the media, but there are many cases where these thefts are not reported or are too minor to make headlines. There is also the case of the Chinese commercial plane, in which China developed commercial planes by stealing and copying Western technology. If you want a proper video on this topic, please leave a comment. If you come this far, please like, share and subscribe, because these videos are taking my time and mental energy like crazy, and I think I'm just whining at this point.